Welcome back to This is Baseball. Well, it's been a while since we've talked about the MVP race in MLB. We talked about it in May, I think, and more specifically, the American League MVP race. Back in May, we were talking about Aaron Judge and kind of what he was doing at the time. He was batting over 400. He had an on-base percentage over 500, and it felt like the MVP race in the American League was all but over. And since we've had that conversation, a lot has happened in the league. So just looking at Aaron Judge missed some time on the IL with the right flexor strain. And since the All-Star break has not been all that hot, he's been hitting 193 since the break, which you know that Aaron Judge is having a fantastic season when he's been hitting 193 since the All-Star break, but he still leads the league in several major offensive categories. He still leads the league in batting average at 324, on base percentage 439, slugging 669, and OPS over 1,000 as well, and he's second in home runs to Kyle Riley. And I want to discuss Kyle Riley because at this point, I think he is the MVP, or he should be the MVP in the American League. Now, I believe that Kyle Riley is a major reason why the Mariners are where they are this season, why they've been so good, why they're currently sitting in a playoff spot if the season ended today. Now, if you listen to this podcast, I give the Mariners a lot of grief, but if the Mariners hold on to their spot, he's going to be the reason why. So if you haven't been paying attention to what he's been doing, he's having the best offensive season that we've ever seen by a catcher. Kyle Riley has 50 home runs right now, and it's still August. As we're talking about this, he just broke the single season record for home runs by a catcher that was set by Salvador Perez back in 2021. Salvador Perez hit 48 home runs that season, which Salvador Perez broke Johnny Bench's single season home run record with 45 that he set in 1970. You could argue that Johnny Bench is the greatest catcher of all time, so that's a pretty awesome record to break. But as I said, Kyle Riley broke that record. He now has 50 home runs at the time of this recording, and he's on pace for around 60. Now, remember, the American League home run record in a single season was just set by Aaron Judge in 2022. Aaron Judge hit 62 home runs that year, which beat the long-standing record that Roger Maris had set in 1961 of 61 home runs. So there's a chance that by the end of this season, Kyle Riley is the single season home run leader for the American League. Now, the Major League Baseball single season home run record is 73 home runs set by Barry Bonds in 2001. If you want to acknowledge that one, that's up to you. But back to the MVP race, because you look at it in the American League, Kyle Riley, Aaron Judge, Bobby Witt Jr. is in the conversation again. I don't think that Bobby Witt Jr. is having as good of a season as he did last year, where I feel like any other season he would have been MVP, but Aaron Judge was fantastic. Still having an awesome season, Bobby Witt Jr. is, but I think this is where we overcomplicate things as fans. Yes, Aaron Judge is great, and anybody would be happy to have him in their lineup every night because you know that he's going to do what he's supposed to do. But to me, the Mariners are not where they are at without Kyle Riley. I don't think that they are in playoff contention. I don't think they're holding on to a wild card spot. I think he is the most valuable player. He brings value to his team. The Mariners are not doing what they do without him here. Not to say that the Mariners don't have other players, but he has set the Mariners above and beyond where I think they would be without his contributions. So to me, numbers aside, is yes, like I said, Aaron Judge still leads the league in several offensive statistical categories outside of home runs, but I think the Yankees would probably also be doing fine without him. Obviously, you still want him here, but seeing what he's doing and how the Yankees have slid and went from leading the American League East to being the top wild card team to now falling behind the Red Sox in those standings because they didn't take care of business at home against Boston. And now, all of a sudden, the Yankees and Mariners hold the 2 and 3 spot in the wild card standings. The Yankees are a game and a half ahead of the Mariners. So maybe this comes down to whether or not the Mariners hold on and make the playoffs. If they do that, Kyle Riley gets it. If not, then Aaron Judge gets it. But at least it's interesting, the American League MVP race, because back in May, it looked like it was just going to be a runaway train with Aaron Judge being an unanimous MVP winner. Now, jumping over to the National League, pretty obvious that Shohei Ohtani is going to win MVP, and as long as Shohei Ohtani is doing what he's doing, he's going to be the MVP favorite for the rest of his career. He's one of the best offensive players in the league, and to pair that with being back on the mound and being an effective pitcher on the mound, he's just, that's something that is hard to beat. And if you want to talk about what a valuable player is, it is somebody that can do a lot of different things for your team. I think if you can hit at the rate that he's hitting, 45 home runs, he's tied for the National League lead. He's leading in slugging and OPS, and he has the most runs scored in Major League Baseball. He's been fine on the mound, but he's striking out a ton of batters. He has an 11.5 Ks per 9 ratio, and as long as he's going to be effective on the mound, he's still going to go out there. Pairing that with being a phenomenal hitter, Shohei Ohtani, MVP favorite every time. The only reason I would think that maybe he doesn't get it is, one, he maybe has a down year by Shohei Ohtani standard, or somebody else kind of dethrones Shohei Ohtani statistically for the year, or there's just voter fatigue where they're like, yeah, we've given Shohei Ohtani 6 MVPs. This guy's having a great year. Let's vote him in. All right, I want to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals for just a few minutes. The 2025 St. Louis Cardinals are not having fun. Kind of talked about the Cardinals last year and how I think that they are going to go through some dark seasons as a franchise, which is something that is not really the norm for the Cardinals, really since the early 2000s. The Cardinals have been one of the model franchises in Major League Baseball. They've been to 4 World Series. They've won 2 of those World Series championships. They've been in the postseason virtually every season. They make it to a ridiculous amount of National League Championship Series, and they have some of the best fan support in all of Major League Baseball. Really, all of this started in 2023. They finished last in the National League Central, 71 and 91. Kind of turned it around in 24, went 83 and 79, but missed out on the postseason. Had some spurts this season where they were competitive, but now they are 65 and 68. They sit 18 games out of the National League Central, and fans have stopped showing up. So I got on ESPN.com. They have attendance stats to look at for every team over the last 25 years. And since 2001, the St. Louis Cardinals have been top 10 in attendance every year. Their fans show up. They've had, like I said, 4 World Series appearances. They've had multiple 100-win seasons, and the fans have come to expect greatness. They've expected their team to be the class of the league and be on top of the standings. And for the first time in 25 years, the fans have stopped showing up. They've stopped supporting the team by physically being in Busch Stadium, right? You look at highlights or you watch a Cardinals game, the stands are empty. And right now, St. Louis sits 19th in attendance in 2025, which is, as I said, significantly worse where they've been. So it's bad in St. Louis. There's really nobody on the Cardinals roster that moves the needle. Like Nolan Arenado is kind of past his prime. Wilson Contreras has not really lived up to the hype. Obviously, Paul Goldschmidt's gone. The days of Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, Adam Wainwright are over. And there's just a lot of questions in St. Louis of where the Cardinals are going to go next. They've had this weird transition period with John Mozeliak, who's been in charge of the Cardinals front office for a long time, who said that he's leaving, but he's not leaving until next season, so they know that he's gone. So Chaim Bloom, who is likely taking over for John Mozeliak, is in the building with him and just have this awkward transition period. You have Ollie Marmol, who is the Cardinals manager, who I don't think people are really all that excited about, and I don't know how long he really has left being the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. You had Wilson Contreras, who I just talked about, have a very stupid, immature meltdown against the Pirates on Monday night. Contreras strikes out looking on a pitch that, if you watch the replay, looked like a strike to me. Walks away from the umpire, then comes back, has to be held back, throws his bat, hits one of his coaches in the face, throws a bucket of gum on to the field that the Cardinals bat boys and Cardinals staff have to now clean up because you're throwing an immature tantrum, and now you have a 6-game suspension. And I think that scenario pretty much sums up the St. Louis Cardinals of 2025. Is they're obviously not the worst team in the world, but they're having a disastrous stretch of baseball by the St. Louis Cardinals standard. And I think this Contreras outburst, whatever you call it, is kind of the cherry on top. I have no problem with players showing emotion, but I think there's a line, and to me that line was crossed, and I think a 6-game suspension was absolutely justified. You're going to throw your bat. A bat, it could be considered a weapon in a lot of instances. Not only did you throw your bat, but you struck somebody with it. Not only did you strike somebody with it, but it was one of your own coaches. And then you're throwing stuff onto the field. Grow up, man. Have a bad season, but have some class having that bad season. It is kind of funny watching Cardinals fans go through this, though, because they don't really know what to do, because they've never seen bad baseball. They've never seen bad baseball for an extended period of time. I do think that that is the appropriate response. I'm not going to show up to your stadium and watch you if you are not going to put together the winning baseball that we expect in St. Louis. They have high standards over there, and the fans are voting with their wallet, which is what you absolutely should do. I know that there's always this debate of fair weather fans and diehard fans and only showing up when things are great. But to me, I look at it like you would any other business. If you go to a restaurant and they keep cooking your steak wrong or keep messing up your meal in whatever way, you're not going to keep going there, right? If the experience is bad, you're not going to keep showing up to that business. If you're watching a TV show that is supposed to be a sitcom, it's supposed to be funny, and it doesn't make you laugh, you're not going to keep watching that show, right? And that's where the Cardinals are going, right? The Cardinals are a team that you typically expect to win, and now they're having a rough stretch. They are seasons 8 and 9 of The Office. They're when Steve Carell left the office is what the St. Louis Cardinals are right now. Not the worst thing we've ever seen, but definitely not what we were watching for the first 7 seasons. That's all I have this week on This Is Baseball. We'll be back next week. Next week is September, so we're really going to dial in on some of the playoff races and go from there. See ya.